Today, we will be looking at some of the worst and notorious killers in history, and hear some of the terrifying things that they have admitted to during interviews or interrogations. From John Wayne Gacy talking about his fascination with clowns, to Charles Manson talking nonsense and acting crazy. Let's talk about this and more only in today's video. Top 10 Disturbing Interviews with Evil People, Part 5. Starting off this countdown, we have Charles Manson. Famous cult leader Charles Manson had the reputation for being quite wild and acting strange in his interviews. This interview that I'm about to show you was conducted by ABC News. The interviewer is questioning Manson about the murders he committed. At one point, he asks Manson to describe who he is in a sentence. What a question. And then Manson just kind of loses it.
People look at you today, 20 years later, and they still have no idea what you're about. Tell me in a sentence who you are.
That must have creeped the reporter out so bad. Like, this dude was just out of his mind. After doing all those weird expressions and body movements, he tells the reporter he is nobody.
Nobody. I'm nobody.
Just the way that he whispered that sent shivers down my spine. But that's not all he had to say.
I'm a tramp, a bum, a hobo. I'm a boxcar and a jug of wine. And a straight razor if you get too close to me.
I have no clue what any of that means. Was this Manson just putting on an act? I mean, at one point he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and paranoid delusional disorder, but some people think he was just too smart for his own good and was just faking it all. Either way, this video gives me the creeps. In our 9th spot, we have Casey Anthony. In 2008, Casey Anthony's young daughter Kaylee went missing. Casey was obviously arrested for her disappearance and death, but in the end, prosecutors were unable to conclusively tie her to her daughter's death. In this interview, we hear Casey's side of things.
What I remember is being in bed, my
morning.
mom coming in before she left for work and saying goodbye to us, and then waking up several hours later. 2 hours later, and not knowing where she was.
So your parents had her.
My dad did.
Next thing you know, she's missing, right? How did it play?
I did what I was told. I don't remember too much of what happened.
Her story just doesn't add up, and everyone knows that she did it. They just can't seem to get enough evidence to prove this, and it's incredibly sad. Coming in at number 8, we have John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy was an infamous American serial killer in the 1970s, who was given the name the Killer Clown. Why? Well, he would often dress up as Pogo the Clown for neighborhood events or children's parties, which seemed to be his way of meeting his victims. In one of his interviews, he talks about why he would dress up as a clown.
The clowning was relaxation for me. I enjoyed entertaining kids. Like some people are, they unwind in different ways, either we're going out drinking or that. I could put on clown makeup and I was relaxed.
That's an odd way to find relaxation, but he continues on saying he genuinely loved being a clown. The interviewer ends up asking him if he enjoyed it because he could then lure victims to him, and Gacy denies this. That's not why he liked it. He liked it because it brought him back to feelings of being a child.
I've always told people when I got into clown makeup, I regressed into childhood. It was fun being a clown because you could be yourself or just let yourself go and act a fool. You could be slapstick and funny and have a good time. That's why I always enjoyed clowning.
Just knowing the horrors that he has done makes everything he says so scary. The interview gets worse though when the interviewer starts asking questions about Gacy's victims. According to him, he doesn't remember any of the horrific deeds that he has done.
I have a lot of things that I've forgotten that I can't remember. For instance, I can go back to my childhood and stuff and I still remember that, but yet I can go into the 70s and there are a lot of things I can't remember.
He then proceeds to grab a book that is filled with his victims' pictures and information and claims that he has studied the book over and over and can't remember anything.
I don't know if you notice here, we got pictures of every one of the victims here, and believe it or not, for the last 12 years, I've studied these photos of the victims. And there is no, we have a shot of all of the victims together here. And when you look over at the photos, I have no recollection of any of them. Never met them. They're just names and faces. And when you look at them, The thing of it is, we took it a step further. We went into their backgrounds. I wanted to know where they were at, what schools they attended, who they hung out with, and what kind of activities they were into. And that's what we dug up on each one of the victims.
Now, what he is saying is sick for a number of reasons. Many people believe that he still remembers his victims, but he's just faking this all. And in the end, he is receiving pleasure by learning more about his victims, and this also helps him recount what he did to them. Coming in at number 7, we have Jeffrey Dahmer. This interview of Jeffrey Dahmer that I'm about to share with you is said to be his last interview ever. It all started when Jeffrey started torturing animals at a young age. Then when he was around 14 or 15, he started to have impulses to hurt humans instead.
I don't know, it became a compulsion, and it switched from animals to humans. I still don't understand it. I don't know why.
If your fantasy life as a teenager includes killing, who do you tell?
It then just got worse and worse according to Dahmer.
Started having obsessive thoughts of violence intermingled with sex. And it just got worse and worse. I didn't know how to tell anyone about it, so I didn't.
You thought that was bad? Well, he goes on to talk about his first kill, which happened when he was only 18 years old.
I was 18 years old, driving home. I saw this hitchhiker about a mile from my house. He caught my eye. I drove past him, thought to myself, should I stop and pick him up or should I just keep on going? I wish I just kept on going, but I didn't. I turned around, picked him up, and that's when the nightmare became a reality.
It's the fact that he can recount all these horrors with no emotion, no tone whatsoever. It's like he's reading from a script. He shows no remorse. In our 6th spot today, we have Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was known to be super intelligent, charming, and manipulative during his interviews, so interviewers had to be extremely careful. He knew exactly what people wanted to hear and carefully catered his responses to that. The interview we're going to look at today is from 1977 while Bundy was in prison. During the interview, the reporter asks him if he's nervous about the evidence that they have against him. This was his snarky little reply.
Okay, I mean, you have access to information, but I'm on the inside. I know what's there and I know what isn't there. I've seen the files and I've heard the reports. And Lord knows I'm the first and foremost person who has the personal and intimate knowledge that it couldn't be me, that it's not me, that I'm innocent.
Although everything he was saying was a lie. He often would try to manipulate the interviewers into thinking he was innocent, when we all know that was not the case. Take a look at this next clip, for example.
What happens if you're in prison 5 years and nothing like what has happened in the past happens again?
What do you mean?
I mean, any of the things that you have been accused of by innuendo, by rumor, by the police departments or whatever. What if there are no killings or no kidnappings?
It's already happened, hasn't it?
The main thing to focus on here is his facial expression. The smirk, the struggling to hide a smile when the guy is talking about Bundy getting caught and going to prison. I think any normal person would be scared of being caught, especially when they know that they did it. But Bundy was so cocky and assured of himself that he thought he was gonna get away with it all. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with Harold Shipman. Harold Shipman was an English doctor and serial killer. It was discovered that he took the lives of a number of patients under his care, his total number of victims being around 250. Imagine that, you go to a hospital thinking that they're gonna save you, but instead end up being the cause of your death. Now, during Harold's police interrogations, he refused to speak and refused to look at any piece of evidence that they had against him. In particular, he would not look at the photos of his victims.
Lily Crossley, if you'd like to look at that, just for the benefit of the tape. Dr. Shipman's eyes are closed and he didn't look at the photograph at all. Can you remember Lily Crossley at all? Okay, no answer.
Now, Shipman was obviously doing this so he wouldn't give anything away. But in fact, his very actions in this interview gave away everything. Investigators noticed that when they presented the victim's image in front of him, he would freeze and stop breathing for 9 seconds. So they immediately knew that there's something up with him.
That's Elizabeth Pierce. The 3 ladies there, it's the elderly lady dressed in black. For the benefit of the tape, Dr. Shipman's eyes are closed and he did not look at.
He doesn't breathe for 9 seconds after they said her name. So Elizabeth Pierce, that name is a problem for him. Something about that victim is causing his body stress, and that is one of the reasons why police knew he had done these horrific crimes. Moving on, at number 4 we have Colin Norris. Colin Norris was a nurse that was found guilty of taking the lives of 4 of his elderly patients. He would do so by injecting them with lethal doses of insulin. During his interrogation, he was adamant that he was not guilty.
You're also injecting a patient with insulin.
No, I wasn't. You're sitting there saying, you suspect, you presume, you blah blah blah.
Both men preyed on people they'd been trusted to look after.
So they brought him in for the murder of Ethel Hall. He was the last person who had been with Ethel before she slipped into a coma and sadly passed away.
Obviously, if somebody was going to kill someone, they wouldn't leave their signature, would they?
What do you mean by that?
To say that they were there. I was doing my job.
You were doing your job?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you were also injecting a patient with insulin.
No, I wasn't.
He then goes on to try and convince them why he is innocent. So they accused him of injecting her with insulin. Well, this is what he had to say in his defense.
It would have, if you say, like, somebody came and injected me with that, I would say to somebody, wait a minute, what are you doing? Even when you're giving patients their, like, morphine for through the night or whatever, when you inject them, they do make a noise because, I mean, have you ever been injected with anything? So somebody would have noticed a noise from the patient. And or if the patient was asleep, they would have certainly woke up if somebody went and injected.
The worst part is when he slipped up and literally told the interrogators that he doesn't like old people, and that's basically why he committed these crimes.
Norris admitted finding elderly patients challenging.
The smells.
The smells?
Mm-hmm. I couldn't get used to the smells. When I was bathing female patients, having to wash them down below, I found it difficult to start with, especially if they were like ages with my gran.
That just makes me sick. He was there to look after the elderly and did the exact opposite. In our 3rd spot we have Aileen Wuornos. Aileen Wuornos is often considered the first female serial killer. She was found guilty of taking the lives of 7 men. This is the last interview of her before she received the death penalty.
You know, I was just wondering how you're going to be, you know, at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Are you prepared?
I'm prepared. I'm alright with it.
At this point, Aileen was proud of her murders. She didn't want to die, but she had accepted her fate. At one point, she claimed she couldn't stand being on death row any longer since she had already been there for 10 years. At this point, she just wanted to die.
Prepared yourself for tomorrow morning.
I'm alright with it. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Hey, I was tortured at BCI. They had the intercom on in the room, and they kept lying that it wasn't on, and they were using sonic pressure on my head since 1997.
This seemed to be true to Aileen. Being locked away, she started to grow paranoid. She thought that the people making her food were spitting in it, and that she was being attacked by a sonic weapon, aka the intercom. Anyways, let's move on.
What more is there to say about the cops? What more do you want to say about the cops?
A lot of stuff. Did you know that they were surveilling me before I killed? And then I knew it? Then I know that the cops knew who I was after Richard Mallory died. I left prints everywhere, and they covered it up. And let me kill the rest of those guys to turn me into a serial killer.
If this is true, then this is incredibly messed up. And then when she gets mad, it's actually really scary.
You killed 7 men.
Yes, you
did.
did.
And I'm asking you, what got you to kill the 7 men?
And I'm telling you because the cops let me keep killing them, Nick. Don't you get it? Ladder climbs, the election, everything else. I got a big finger in all your faces. Thanks a lot. You're inhuman. You're an inhumane bunch of and you're going to get nuked in the end. And pretty soon it's coming.
It got intense. I think her facial expressions and wide eyes make it 10 times scarier. Like if I was that interviewer, I would have peed my pants. In our 2nd spot today, we have Paul Bernardo. Paul Bernardo is a Canadian serial killer who, along with his partner Karla Holmoka, carried out a number of horrific crimes in Scarborough, Ontario. This is footage from his interview with Toronto police detectives.
Did you kill Elizabeth Bain on June the 19th, 1990?
Well, it's a loaded question. I mean, are we going to go back and go through the time sequence of what happened in my life? I mean, I could just give a yes or no answer, but there's a lot of issues about that.
In a way, he reminds me of Ted Bundy, constantly tiptoeing around the questions, saying what he thinks they want to hear, and trying to outsmart them.
Hey, did you kill this person? I mean, well, you're saying I'm lying here, here, and here. I could say, no, I didn't. But, I mean, you already said I'm lying here with the PO, you're saying.
Okay, I'm not saying anything about who's lying. I'm simply...
and I've given you directions to go to find the truth.
Right.
No one's done that.
Also, take in how he is smiling throughout this, like it's fun games for him. It makes me sick. He's literally having fun with this all. And in our #1 spot today, we have Karla Holmoka. Now, we talked about her counterpart, Paul, so it's only fair that we talk about Karla herself. Basically, what happened is that Karla confessed to her roles in the murders and testified against Paul to get out of a harsher sentence. In this interview, she puts on an innocent act and tries to blame Paul for everything that they did.
He kept on pushing and pushing and pushing, and finally I said, okay.
She tried to make it seem like she was a victim and being controlled by Paul.
If I didn't turn the water tap off completely, he'd hit me. If I didn't say the right thing, he'd hit me. He held knives to my throat. He told me I better watch my back. He said, always watch your back with me.
From our understanding, this was her strategy to pin the blame all on him so she could get away with the murders. Alright guys, that's all for today's video. Let me know in the comments below which one of these interview clips creeped you out the most. And now, speaking of comments, let's move on to our comment shoutout portion. I'll be shouting out comments from the video Top 10 Secrets to the Afterlife Found in History Part 2. Corky commented, I actually love this girl. She reminds me of a very good friend who is super witty and hilarious. Much love and blessings. Oh, thank you, Corky. Witty and hilarious? Stop it, making me blush. Elena Origami Music Key Videos commented, we need you guys to rule the world because you know so much. Not joking, you have the kind of Einstein. You know too much. Yes, I know this all off the top of my head. I study like crazy. We don't use Google at all. And Justin Cameron commented, if I ever have a son, I will name him Lindsay. Thank you. I'm actually honored. So cool. You could even say if I ever have a dog, I'll name them Lindsay, and I'd be happy about that too. So thank you very much. As long as you spell it properly and not EY. Sorry. Alright guys, that's all the comments I'm shouting out for today's video. Make sure to comment something down below for a chance to be featured in my next comment shout out. And as always, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to Most Amazing Top 10 for more amazing videos. I've been your host, Lindsay Ivan, and I'll see you when I see ya.